The secret to well-being is discovering the power that is your birthright, the power to create a happier, healthier life, drawn from our own vast internal resources. Join Jules and her guests as they gently guide you to shift your perspective from the familiar negative to the divinely connected, a place that will not only positively impact your world, but possibly shift the planet. It's all right here on Law of Attraction Talk Radio.
Well, welcome to Law of Attraction Talk Radio. I'm Jules from beautiful Southern California. To all my Aussie friends out there, I hear it's starting to get warm in Australia with temperatures at about 20 degrees Celsius, which is about 68 degrees Fahrenheit for us. But in my neck of the woods, I'm looking at temperatures over 100. So for those of you who are just starting to thaw out, take note, because I'm going to be sending you a lot of hot air. Just start feeling the warmth. We've got a great show for you tonight, and I really think you're going to enjoy it. It's about a book called Dancing on a Stamp, and it was written by Garnet Schulhauser, a very successful and prominent lawyer in Canada who happens to meet a man with the bluest of eyes. And this man changed Garnet's life. After reading this book, I must tell you, I had a few aha moments myself. And now I get why people can resonate so well when they first hear about the law of attraction. It all makes sense to me. I get it. And I hope you will too as we listen to this very, very special story that will get you thinking. So sit back, relax, put your feet up, and tune your mind into receiving some brand new information. We'll be right back after these words.
You're listening to Law of Attraction Radio Network, enhancing the well-being of millions of listeners worldwide. LOARadionetwork.com is heard through 25 different internet radio stations, as well as iTunes Radio, Stitcher.com, and our mobile apps. The Law of Attraction Radio Network, your trusted source of daily inspiration at LOARadionetwork.com.
Join us for the Ultimate Energy Cruise featuring the phenomenal energy shifter Eric Altman on October 4th. Spend 3 whole days and nights interacting with one of the most powerful energy healers of our lifetime. Go to lawofattractioncruise.com and sign up today. This is going to be a sold-out event, so don't wait. lawofattractioncruise.com. Okay, we are back on Law of Attraction Talk Radio with Jules. Hey, remember that healing email that we sent out a few weeks ago that was energized by Eric Altman? I just heard from people in Europe who have received it, and they were so ecstatic. They were just delighted, and I was thrilled. So it is going around the world. Thank you to all who have sent it. If you did not get one in the email, but you want to receive it and forward it on to your family and friends, contact me at Jules at LOARadionetwork.com, and we'll get it to you immediately. The response has been terrific. And you know what it tells somebody? It tells them that you care enough about their well-being. Speaking of Eric Altman, did I mention that we have a new triple-powered money activation MP3? We call it the triple-powered money activation because not only is it a hypnosis MP3 all about money by me, it has the high-frequency sounds of Sophia 528 hertz, which is the love and miracles frequency, which goes directly into the soft tissue of the brain. This is produced by CodeDimensions.com, and it's beautiful music that is behind the hypnosis. But to make it even more powerful, this MP3 has been fully energized by Eric Altman. I know this is the first time something like this has ever been put together. All three are powerful by themselves, but to have this combined intentionally to bring about money activation for you, Well, it's something that you've got to experience for yourself. You can purchase this triple-powered money activation MP3 download that you can put right onto your phone or right into your MP3 player or onto a CD. All you need to do is go to moneyactivation.com. Remember, you get me, you get Don McCarty's Code Dimension, beautiful, high-frequency, powerful music, and you get Eric Altman's incredible energy transformation. And you know something? This really works. So go to moneyactivation.com. Now, for all of you who are coming on our Ultimate Energy Cruise on October 4th, you're going to get this MP3 for free as our gift to you. Plus, you will receive 2 months of long-distance energy healing by Eric for just coming on the cruise as well. I think it's worth about $400. You know, Eric and I are very serious about the fact that when you come on this cruise, we want your life to change. And it will. You're going to walk off and maintain this high vibrational energy. We still have space available for the cruise, but you need to sign up immediately because the sale date is close at hand. It's October 4th. We've got to get you booked immediately. And yes, I do have cabin mates available. So go to lawofattractioncruise.com and hurry. Don't miss out. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm so excited about this cruise. 3 whole days of just being immersed in this incredible, awesome love energy of which is going to absolutely transform not only my mind, but every cell of my body and remove all the stuff that I brought with me through my DNA. Oh, my goodness, it's going to be so much fun. I'm going to be one happy camper when I get back. Well, I'm already a happy camper, but there's going to be some big changes, and I'm just thrilled. Now, let's get on with tonight's show. This is such a great story and interview that I really don't want to give you very much information before hearing it. But I do want to let you know that Garnet Schulhauser lives in Canada, was a prominent lawyer, but kept wondering, what's the purpose to life? Did I come here to merely exist and then die into nothingness? Is that stuff that you learned in Sunday school the real truth, or is it a bunch of hooey? Well, I think you will thoroughly enjoy the answer from such a left brain kind of guy. Remember the title of the book because it's excellent and it's so uplifting, so inspirational that you will want to read it over and over again. You're going to want to share it with people. It's called Dancing on a Stamp by Garnet Schulhauser. Welcome, Garnet, to Law of Attraction Talk Radio.
Thank you for inviting me.
I want to talk about this really terrific book, Dancing on a Stamp. You've been a successful corporate lawyer, but you felt like there was something missing, and then something happened to get you on this path of discovering what is going on. Could you tell us what was missing and how you came about doing all this?
Well, certainly. What was missing was that, well, first of all, a brief background. I was raised in a very religious Roman Catholic family, so I learned all the things that the Catholic Church taught me as a kid. And as I grew older into my teens, I started questioning a lot of their beliefs and rules, some of which didn't make any sense to me. And by the time I hit my 30s, I had more or less rejected a lot of the stuff that they had taught me as a child. It just didn't ring true to me at all. So then I was sort of in no man's land. I had rejected one set of beliefs that I had grown up with, and I hadn't found another one to latch onto. So I was kind of drifting and trying to find another set of beliefs, another paradigm that I could latch onto that felt good to me. And so I was constantly asking myself the questions that most adults ask at one point or another, like, who am I? Why am I here? What am I supposed to accomplish in my life? And what happens to me when I die? And so I was sort of constantly asking these questions. And I was, at the time that this life-changing event for me happened, I was practicing corporate law in Calgary in Canada. Had been practicing there for quite a while when I was with a very large law firm. And so what happened that really sort of changed everything in my life was that I decided to go for a stroll one sunny afternoon in May. It was 2007, in the afternoon, just to get a breath of fresh air. Mm-hmm. So I went out into the pedestrian mall just outside of our building and started walking down the street in my navy pinstripe suit, looking every bit like a stuffed shirt, straight-laced corporate lawyer, the typical that you would imagine,
Right.
I fit the role perfectly. So I was strolling down the street with my head in the clouds as usual, and then all of a sudden, a homeless man jumped out in front of me, just sort of jumped right out in front of me and stopped me in my tracks. Now, he looked every bit the part of a homeless person. I mean, he had stringy, greasy, long hair and a scraggly beard, and his clothes looked like he'd been sleeping in them for weeks. And I had met these people on the street, or similar ones to him, many times before, and I would usually just do a quick sidestep and go around them, because they were usually asking for money. Uh-huh. And in those days, I didn't pay attention to homeless people. Things have changed since then. Anyway, but this man was different, so I didn't do my usual sidestep. And he sort of stopped me in my tracks, because what was amazing about this man was he had this amazing, sparkling, dazzling blue eyes that basically shone like two little blue stars. And his eyes were sort of doing two things at once. The first thing was that they seemed to be penetrating deep inside of me, sort of looking right down into the depths of my soul. And I sensed that this man, who I'd never met before, or I had never even seen him before, I sensed that he knew everything about me. He knew everything that I'd ever said or done, and he knew all my hopes and aspirations and all my fears and anxieties and even my deepest, darkest secrets. And he didn't say that he knew this. I just sensed that he knew it. It was just one of those things that came from his eyes. Mm. So I was standing there feeling kind of naked and exposed, and the thing that was different about this that didn't make me feel uncomfortable or violated was the fact that at the same time his amazing blue eyes were sending forth this amazing gush of unconditional love towards me, which was just sort of infusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security and well-being.
Wow.
It was sort of a feeling I'd never ever had experienced before. It was like it was wonderful. It's hard to describe it. And so I was just standing there basking in all this wonderful love that this guy was sending to me. It was like I was caught in a time warp almost, because I have no idea how long I was standing there, and frankly, I didn't care. I could have stood there forever. And then he sort of broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" And then he immediately turned around and slipped into a nearby store and disappeared. Well, I finally collected my wits, and I decided I better go chase this guy, find him, and ask him why he'd asked me that question. So I went chasing into the store after him, and there was only one entrance and only one exit. And I didn't see him leave, and I couldn't find him in the store anywhere. So I walked back out into the street and marched up and down a few blocks trying to spot him, but he just was nowhere around. So I finally gave up, and I slowly walked back to my office with my head in a daze. And I was wondering, what had just happened? Was this guy for real? Was I dreaming? What was this all about? So that night at home, I kept on thinking about this, and I knew that I had to find the answer. I had to go back and find this man, because he was obviously a very special man. So the next afternoon, exactly the same time, I walked back out onto the same street, took a stroll, hoping to find him. And I walked, up and down for perhaps a half an hour, was about ready to give up, and then I suddenly spotted him, this homeless man, sitting on a bench all by himself. So I walked over to him, and I said, "Who are you, and why did you ask me that question?" And he said, "Well, you've been asking a lot of questions all of your life, and I'm here to give you the answers and to help you on your journey." Well, despite the fact that he was a very special person, and I could just sense that from his eyes, my lawyer brain suddenly kicked in, and I became a little skeptical, and I said to him, "Well, why do you think you can help me? Because you can't even help yourself. It looks like you've been sleeping in the street for weeks, and you smell like a dead fish." He just gave me a big smile, and he just said, "Looks can be deceiving." He said, "You look like a very successful corporate lawyer with everything under control, but we both know that's just a facade. He said, if you want to turn around and go back to your office, you can do so and see if you can find your answers in all those emails waiting for you on your computer, or you can sit down here and take a chance with me. So intuitively, I just knew that, yeah, he's right. This is a very special person, and I had nothing to lose by sitting down and chatting with him for a while. I mean, the worst that could happen is I've lost a half an hour.
Right.
So I sat down and I started talking to him, and that was the beginning of a series of conversations that I had with this man. I found out early on that he actually told me that he was one of my spirit guides disguised as a homeless man.
Wow.
And so he had appeared to me as the homeless man on a sort of a special mission, which was to answer the questions that I had been asking and to try to spread his answers or get me to spread his answers to other people. And so that was the start of our conversation, which went on for several months. The first 3 times that we met, he appeared as the homeless man. And he was very much like, to me, he was like solid flesh and bones, and I touched him and shook his hand and so on. And after the first 3 times, he no longer appeared as the homeless man. He was just a voice in my head, and we communicated by telepathy.
Wow.
And when I asked him why he had appeared as the homeless man, he said, well, it was just to get your attention and get you engaged in the conversation, because if I had just started talking to you as a voice in your head, you probably would have thought you were going crazy. So this was just sort of an attention getter. And he said that I was actually the only person who could see him as a homeless man. And so that day on the bench when I was talking to him, anybody who walked by would have seen me sitting on the bench all by myself, talking to myself.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And so that was how he got me engaged. And it was it was a really interesting conversation, because I kept on asking him questions and he would answer as best he could, and every time he answered one of my questions, it brought up 2 or 3 more questions, so the thing sort of kept on going. But it was a conversation really like 2 friends chatting over a beer. He didn't lecture or preach to me, and he had an amazing sense of humor, and he often took shots at me for a lot of my human foibles. And he was great with sarcasm, and sometimes he would give me a kick in the bum to get me going in the direction that he wanted me to. So it was he was challenging, he was engaging, and very interesting. And the reason I wrote the book was that, partway early on in the conversation, I said to him, his name was Albert, by the way.
Right.
I said to Albert, some of the things you're telling me are really quite comforting, and I find them inspiring. And I think it would be great if you could let other people in the world know, especially people who have suffered a tragedy or lost a loved one or are going through a crisis. If they could hear what you're telling me, it would give them a lot of comfort. And he said, oh, I do intend to have my message spread, he said, because you are going to write a book.
And you did, and it's called Dancing on a Stamp.
And so that was the first time the idea of writing a book had ever popped in my mind. I mean, I was a corporate lawyer, and I was busy with practicing law and my clients. But anyway, so I was initially reluctant, and I said to him, well, why would you pick me? I'm just an amateur. I've never written a book before. Why wouldn't you pick an established author like Stephen King or J.K. Rowling to spread your message? And he said, well, I have my reasons, and someday I'll tell you, but right now, you're it. So quit your whining, suck it up, and start writing. So I've learned that you can never lose an argument with spirit. I mean, you can try, you can dig in your heels, and you can try to resist, but they're always going to win. So.
Yeah, always. So this book, Dancing on a Stamp, is all about what Albert revealed to you during your meetings. So let's just talk about some of the things that he gave you, some of the messages he gave you. And at the beginning of the book, it discusses our life's plans, and it refutes the dogma of religious organizations. But I was hoping you could go into a little bit of what he told you about why, what's about our life plan? What are we supposed to be doing?
Well, life plan, that's a very interesting aspect, because he got into that in answer to my question, which was, why am I here? And his short answer was, because you chose to come here. And so basically he said, my soul and your soul and everyone else who's on this planet, we're all souls on the spirit side, and we all chose to come to Earth to have an earthly experience, to experience things that don't exist on the spirit side that we need for our growth, and to learn lessons to help our souls evolve. So the first big point was, you're here and I'm here because we chose to come here. God didn't make us, or the source, or the creator, or whoever you want to characterize the source. The source did not make us come here, nor did anyone else. So it was our own free choice. And we came here, as I said, to learn things that don't exist on the spirit side, and to complete our knowledge. And so I didn't quite understand that point. And he said, well, when you're on the spirit side, you can watch what happens on Earth, and you can learn from that. You can learn about what goes on in Earth from books and from videos, but that's really book learning, and you can't really complete your knowledge of the factors on Earth until you actually incorporate into a physical body and experience them in a physical sense. And so that's why we do it, because on the spirit side, everything's just perfect conditions, and there are no negative emotions. So on Earth we have harsh physical conditions, we have extremes of climate, we have earthquakes and floods and tornadoes, and then we have
we've got emotions, that's the biggest one, isn't it?
Yeah, the biggest thing is the negative emotions that humans have. Fear, anger, hate, jealousy, greed, judgment. Those are the things that cause most of the grief and the harm to other humans, is when those emotions sort of run amok and get out of hand. And those things don't exist on the spirit side. So as you're sitting there and you want to know, what is hate really like, you can't really tell by studying what goes on Earth from the spirit side. You have to actually incarnate here and experience hate coming towards you from another person, or experience your own hate to someone else who did something that you didn't like. And so that's why we choose to incarnate on the planet. So before we do so, though, we set up what's called a life plan, which is basically a blueprint of our proposed lives on Earth, and we chose all the sort of the initial factors, like our name, our parents, our siblings, where we're born, our first language, the first schools we go to. We choose that all in advance, and then we choose some other major milestones and points that we'd like to hit as we live our lives, like the identity of our spouse and what our careers will be, and various other things. And we do that with a purpose in mind, which is to try to experience those things that we need for our evolution, and for the lessons that we need to learn. But life plans, of course, don't determine everything that happens, because we have this thing called free will when we're on the Earth. And so, once we're old enough to sort of exercise our free will, we can then make decisions when we come to a fork in the road, or an event that calls for a decision, and our free will is there to allow us to do what our minds choose to do, which may or may not be what we had intended in our life plan. So we can easily go off stray, we can go off on a tangent, and we can not follow our life plans, and that's just part of all the challenge of being a human on Earth. But anyway, you set up your life plan with the intention that hopefully you can hit all the points that you want, or most of them, and you develop your life plan in conjunction with the other major players in your life, so that you have to sit down with the people who will be your parents and your siblings and your spouse and your children, because it all has to be coordinated, because they all have a life plan as well, and everyone has to sort of agree to play a part in each other person's life, and you agree to be a part of theirs. And so this is all sort of coordinated. And then once you're born and your free will is being exercised, all bets are off. You may follow your life plan, or you may not. In the end result, Albert said it. If you miss everything on your life plan, no big deal, because you can come back and incarnate on Earth as many times as you like. So it's not a big deal, but you try to follow it, because like a person in school, you want to sort of graduate from this planet and the quicker you can sort of learn all your lessons and experience what you need to, the quicker you can sort of, in your mind, determine that you're ready to move on to something else. So it's a challenge.
Now, Albert said that we talk with all of our ancestors, with our grandparents, our siblings, our parents, prior to being born. And how is that possible if I have a grandmother that's 60 years of age and that I am talking to them about my life's purpose before I'm even born? How do we communicate? Do we communicate while they're asleep? How is that possible?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Jules. Every night when we sleep, our souls basically make a temporary leave from our body, and they can travel around the earth to check in on relatives or friends or children. They quite often go back to the spirit side, and when they're back on the spirit side, they can consult with their spirit guides or other people in their soul group. And so, to answer your question, when your grandmother is already 60 years old when you're born, how could her soul consult with your soul before you were born? Well, they do it at night when they journey to the spirit side.
Interesting. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. It really does. Okay, so Albert stated in the book that no one dies by accident. What did he mean by that?
Well, he meant that when a human dies on Earth, whether it's in a car crash or a plane goes down or things that seem to be random acts of the universe or random acts of other people that are causing tragic events and causing your death, he says, there's no accident. You don't die by accident because you die when your soul is ready to leave your incarnation. And so what may seem like an accident was really a decision point that your soul made to leave. Your soul was ready to go, and it could have been an exit point that was pre-written into your life plan before you were born. And we all put in like several exit points that we before we're born, where we say, well, depending on what's happened to me so far and what I've learned, I could take this as my exit point, or I'll pass on that one and move on to another one. And you can actually change your exit points. You can change your life plan as you go on. When you journey to the spirit side and when you're sleeping, you can actually fine-tune it and make changes. But anyway, when people die, it's because their soul has decided it's time to go. So if 300 people die in a plane crash all at once, as strange as it may seem, all 300 souls that are occupying those human bodies all decided to exit at the same time. And so, quite literally, nobody dies. It's not any random act of the universe or of other people. It's your soul choosing to die. And if circumstances were to arise where the free will of others or your free will might cause something that would be fatal to your human body, and your soul's not ready to go, then there's this group of what Albert called special spirits, or guardian angels, if you will, who actually step in to intervene to make sure that you don't suffer a premature death if your soul's not ready to go. And so that really means your soul has the ultimate choice as to when to leave, and of course your mind isn't aware of what your soul has decided to do, and that's by design. I mean, you wouldn't really, your human mind really wouldn't want to know what your soul has decided to be your point of death. I don't think anybody really wants to know that.
Right.
But your soul makes the final choice, and so when loved ones die in a tragic accident, Albert said, there's no point for them to shake their fist at God and say, why did you let this happen? Why did you cause this? Because God or the source didn't cause it. It was that person's soul said it was time to go. I've learned what I need to learn here, and I'm going back home.
It's interesting what you said about the guardian angel, because there was just a news article on mainstream media, and I thought it was amazing, about this little girl who was in a major car accident, and that there was a priest who was on the site, and even though they were having a difficult time getting her out, she asked for prayers, and that priest was there giving her prayers and said, okay, everything's going to be okay. They finally got her out of the car, and she's now in recovery, but they never saw the priest again. He just like turned a corner and left. I mean, and they were saying he had deep blue eyes.
Well, that's an amazing story. There's no doubt in my mind that the priest was one of her guardian angels, and came to her in her time of distress to help her pull through because her soul wasn't ready to go. And then when the job was done, they're gone. So guardian angels can materialize as people, as objects, as other things on earth, whatever they need to do their job. And I think no doubt that priest was her guardian angel.
Oh, that's a wonderful story, and thanks for the clarity on that. Now we can understand. In today's world, we are more and more aware of things that are not quite right in our earth. There are wars, there's massive greed, there's even governments trying to control its citizens all over the world. So one of the questions that you asked Albert is, why was Earth designed to be physically harsh to humans? Is one of our main challenges to learn how to control our negative emotions about what is currently going on in the world? Are we not supposed to feel this fear? Are we not supposed to get involved? Are we supposed to ignore what's going on happening in the world? Are we supposed to be aware and try to create something different?
Quite clearly, one of the main experiences on Earth for a soul is, of course, all the negative emotions, as you mentioned, and that leads to, as you said, the conflicts, the terrorism, the wars, the murders, all that sort of thing. That's just negative emotions, people exercising their free will in a very negative way. And so part of the challenge to come here is to learn to experience what that is, but above all, to learn to control our own negative emotions, and to try to help others to control theirs. And the real goal for humanity right now is, of course, to try to move us up to the next level where we can get rid of our negative emotions and just embrace love and compassion and forgiveness. And that's so, souls incarnating here today, that's just part of our mission, whether we know it or not. We're really trying to help humanity, help humans get rid of their negative emotions and just embrace love and forgiveness. So the short answer is you can't just ignore it. I mean, if you ignore it, you're really not helping the cause. You have to first of all learn to control your own negative emotions, and then you need to try to spread the word to others and show by example and by your word and your message to others that negative emotions are just not good for humans, and that we need to sort of change our way of thinking, and so that we can just move up to the next level. So that's clearly the challenge that we have, and it's everyone's challenge. It's not just the radio hosts and the people who write books. It's everyone has the same challenge. They just have to understand what the challenge is and try to work towards it. And if everyone were to be thinking along those lines, we'd soon lose all of our violence and conflicts and wars. We're not there yet, but we have to work at it.
Interesting, and I agree with you 100%. Now, you and Albert also discussed the fact that murderers end up the same place after death as do all the good people. So are we our own judge? Can you talk about this? I mean, for example, let's throw Hitler into the thing. Hitler, his life's purpose was to come and do this so that we can learn to go beyond that?
Well, there's two ways that the bad things could happen on this planet, according to Albert. One way is that a soul actually plans to do bad things for a specific purpose, and the purpose may be because other souls that'll be in their lives need to have that experience, need to overcome the obstacles caused by that person acting in a bad manner. So that could be one reason. The other reason is that it wasn't planned and it was just somebody's free will running amok and going totally off course and causing it in an unintentional way. So those are the two ways of bad things happening or people doing bad things. So in Hitler's case, don't know. We didn't discuss that. Don't know whether he planned it because it was to be part of the experience for a bunch of people that were harmed by him, or whether his free will just ran amok. But it doesn't really matter which way it was caused, because at the end of the day, everyone goes back home, back to the spirit side. So you can be, whether it's Hitler or a murderer or a terrorist, you all go back there, because that may seem unjust and unfair, but the source didn't put us here, and the source doesn't make rules for us. So, and the source doesn't judge us. So without any rules being breached and without the source judging us, there is no punishment. So we all go back to the same place. Mm-hmm. And Albert said it's hard for us to understand that, but he said you have to view life on Earth like you're acting in a play. So if you're an actor in a play and your part calls for you to stab another actor to death in the play, so you go through the play and you play your part and you stab the other actor to death. But when the curtain goes down and you leave the theater, the police don't arrest you for murder, because it was just play acting. It wasn't for real. And so when you get back to the spirit side, if you happen to be a murder victim, when you get back to the spirit side, you and the person who murdered you will all sit there and look back at your lives on Earth and realize you were just like being in a play. So you won't feel any animosity towards the murderer, and you'll just carry on with your life on the spirit side and plan your next incarnation. Now that seems very simplistic, but that's sort of the best analogy he could give me. So when you're back at the spirit side, the fact that a murderer is there beside you is no big deal to you, because you understand what life on Earth is all about.
So then, in fact, we are our own judge. We do take our experiences and judge them. So when we do incarnate, we can choose to do something different, or, you know.
Yeah, that's right. The only person who judges you after you finish your life is really yourself, because everyone, when you get back to the spirit side, you go through what's called a life review, and you actually review every segment of your life in sort of great detail, and you can do it as though you were back in your body and reliving it, or you can do it like you're watching a movie, and you'll go back and you can do it in slow motion and stop it and go back, and you can review it from whatever angle you want. And the purpose of that is for you to really appreciate what your actions and your words and your thoughts on Earth did to other people and other creatures on Earth. So you can really appreciate what you did wrong according to what was in your life plan, and give you an understanding as to what you might do better the next time. So it's sort of a learning exercise. And one of the unique things that Albert said about the life review is you can actually feel what other people felt as you were reacting with them. So if you said something mean to another person, you'll actually be able to feel that person's emotions, that person's hurt and rejection. And that gives you just an entirely new perspective, because, frankly, we go through lives interacting with people all the time, and we don't always appreciate what our words how they impact other people. But in your life review, you get to know exactly what they felt, both the good and the bad, and that just is a learning experience. So then, when you, based upon that, you say, okay, well, what did I mess up? What did I miss? What do I need to learn from my next incarnation? And you use that knowledge in planning, setting up your next life plan and your next incarnation. So it's really it's not to make you feel bad about what you did. It's to make you better understand what you should do the next time. Wow,
very good. Now, talk to us about death. What happens?
Well, death is just it's a transition. When your physical body dies, your soul leaves your physical body behind, and it moves on to the spirit side, which is where it came from, which is home. And one of my concerns, as I say in my book to Albert, was that I understand I'm going to end up back in the spirit side, and that's very comforting, but will the death process be painful or distressing? Will I be anxious? How does that all work? And he said, no, it's actually very pleasant. He said, when your soul has made the decision to exit, you'll actually leave your body just prior to the final moments. So if I were to die in a car accident, I'd actually my soul would leave my body just prior to the impact. So I would not feel the impact or the pain or any of the discomfort that you might think you'd go through when you're in a car accident. And I'd be sitting outside my body, sort of watching the final moments like I'm watching a movie. And then at that point, I would fully understand that my physical body, which I've been attached to for quite a while, was just a shell. It was just a place for my soul to make its journey on Earth. And now's the time to leave it behind, and my soul would move on. And once we hit that point, then our guides will lead us to the spirit side, and we'll be met by what he called a welcoming party, which would be, like the people who had passed before us, our parents and grandparents and other relatives, even our pets that had passed on. And this welcoming party would give us literally a great big warm loving embrace and welcome us back and make us feel comfortable and at home. He said it's all very exhilarating, and it would be like, wow, I finished my journey on Earth, and now I'm back home where everything is so wonderful, and I'm glad I did it, but I'm glad I'm back home now. So he says it's a wonderful experience. It's not painful or distressful, and it's just a wonderful transition from being in the physical body here to back to your true nature on the spirit side.
Interesting. So you said that there were no emotions on the spirit side, but yet I take it with this wonderful feeling that there is the sense of unconditional love.
Yeah, I should have said there's no negative emotions on the spirit side.
Okay.
Yeah, there certainly are emotions, and the overriding emotion is love and compassion, and the love there is pure unconditional love. Nobody judges you, nobody criticizes you, nobody is jealous about where you are. I mean, it's all a great sense of we're all in this together. We all love each other, and everything's fine. And there's nothing negative. There's no hate or fear or any of those things. So the negative emotions just don't exist on the spirit side. It's just all love, which is just an amazing place to be, to have nothing but love around you, unconditional love.
One of the biggest aha moments I had came from reading your book. Albert talked about the instant manifestation on the other side, and I couldn't help but think, this may be the reason why the law of attraction concept so resonates with so many people worldwide. It's because they are kind of remembering that they can manifest instantly.
Yeah, and I think that's very true, because some of our residual memories of where we came from do leak through from time to time, often just subconsciously. But the instant manifestation that you mentioned he called it thought creation, and it's basically literally, if I want something, if I think about it, it's there. When I go somewhere, I'm there instantly, and it's sort of the ultimate of creation by thought, and it happens instantly. And here on Earth, of course, because we're in a very dense plane, things sort of happen in slow motion on Earth. Everything does.
Right.
And so, our thoughts just don't manifest as quickly as they do in the spirit side, as much as we'd want to. And I think in a lot of cases, we have this residual memory of how things happen on the spirit side, where it was like, if I want an apple, it's just there in my hand instantly. Whereas here, if you want an apple, well, you may have to drive to the supermarket and buy one.
Right.
You ultimately get one, but there's a few intervening steps in between.
Yeah, you have to take action.
Yeah.
On this, but I know that people get so frustrated about the law of attraction concept because it takes so much time to manifest their desires here on Earth, and sometimes you may never be able to manifest that desire. So what did Albert tell you about that?
Well, he said that the thoughts on Earth are powerful, but not anywhere nearly as powerful as on the spirit side. So he said, thoughts can work, and group thoughts are more powerful than single thoughts. But the problem with the Earth plane is that there are some things that are in shortage, and so if everyone wants something, the same thing at the same time, it doesn't always happen because there's only a limited number of those things on Earth. So that's one of the limiting factors, whereas in the spirit side, there's no limit to anything. If everybody over there wants to have an apple at the same time, they can all have one. And the other reason that sort of our thoughts don't always manifest the way we want them to on Earth is because we sometimes, our minds get into a conflict with what our soul wants. So our soul wants us to sort of stay on our life path and learn the lessons that it hoped to experience when we were here. And our minds aren't aware of our life plans. We don't remember what was there. And so our minds have sort of their own agendas. So your mind may want something and may, wish for it and focus on trying to get something that it wants, but that may be something that your soul absolutely does not want to happen because it will sort of take you off course. So you end up with this tug of war between your human mind and your soul, and that's often why, and the two will often cancel out. And so if you don't get what you're thinking about or what you desire on Earth, that may be one of the reasons. So it's not as simple as being on the spirit side, that's for sure.
Well, so let's say a person has a strong, huge desire, and I know many of my listeners have this, that they want to be a multimillionaire. But it may not be their life's purpose to be a multimillionaire, and perhaps one of the reasons is that they need to find their security and strength in their emotions free of wanting to be a multimillionaire. Could that be it?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that could very well be the case. And you're quite right. I mean, if you took a survey of people to say, would you like to be a multimillionaire? I mean, the response would be probably 100% or 99%.
Yeah.
And the reason that everyone is not in that position is because it's likely not to be part of their life plan. And if they were to become a multimillionaire, they would miss some of the experiences that they had hoped to experience before they were born, and so it sort of sends them off track, and it would make their life less challenging for sure, and it would certainly be more comfortable in an earthly sense. But you'd miss a lot of the challenges that you hope to encounter. And if you had wanted to be a multimillionaire, you could have planned that on the life in your life plan before you were born. And the fact that we're not all multimillionaires means that we have other lessons to learn and other things to experience, which doesn't entail having a bunch of money. So you're quite right.
Well, I know I'm running across a lot of people who are strongly desiring money and keep on going against the stream. They keep on failing at projects that they put up, and perhaps it's not supposed to be part of their life plan to have $1 million, but to learn how to live abundantly without that money, without that power that they strongly desire.
That's exactly right. We don't know. We created our life plans, but when we're born, and this is by design, we're not allowed to remember because, as Albert said, it would be too easy. It would be like your teacher giving you the questions and answers to a final exam before the exam. Like, what's the point in writing it? So it's by design. We don't remember what's in our life plan. We have to try to figure it out. We have to try to listen to what our guides tell us, what our soul's telling us, because they give us guidance all the time about where we should turn, which fork in the road we should take, what decision we should make. They're trying to get us on track so that we fulfill our life purpose. But we don't always hear those messages, and so it's a bit of a challenge for us. But clearly the people who have become multimillionaires, there's no doubt that it was in their life plan, and in a lot of cases it was not that they inherited a bunch of money, but they had to actually work or create or do something special to get there. And there's no guarantee that they would actually get there, because if they, in using their free will, if they didn't work hard or didn't do what they're supposed to do, they wouldn't become multimillionaires. So it's not a foregone conclusion, but you have sort of a goal in your life plan that you try to get to, and you hope that your mind will hear enough messages to steer, so that you get steered down the right path to get where you want to go. And if it's being a multimillionaire, then you have to listen to what your guides are saying and do what they say, and you may have to work your butt off and create something special to get there. But ultimately, you will get there if you follow the messages that you get from your guides.
Did Albert tell you how you can tune in to hear your guides, or to hear or to get that intuition that message within the heart. Did he give you any messages on that?
Yeah, I mean, the main obstacle for people hearing the messages from their guides, and these messages can be intuitive thoughts or gut feelings or synchronous events or coincidental events or whatever. These are all sort of messages and road signs, and you have to sort of stop and pay attention to what's happening and try to figure out what the message is. It's not sort of a direct. Most of us don't get the direct telepathic communication like that I have with Albert, and so you have to sort of watch for it, and you have to quiet your mind, because your mind is full of thousands and thousands of thoughts that go through your head every day, about what you did yesterday or what you're doing tomorrow or next year. And so meditation, he said, was probably the best way to quiet your mind so that you could better hear what your soul and your guides are trying to tell you. And that's, that sounds simple, but learning to meditate in a way to allow you to hear more messages is easier said than done. And it's just a matter of finding a method that works for you and just work at it, practice so that you can hear more of your messages and try to stay closer to the path you intended for your life before you were born.
Interesting. So I take it we came here to experience the emotions of fear, of negativity. Is our purpose then, our real purpose, to learn how to overcome these feelings and leave this earth happy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing is to experience them so that you can understand what hate and anger and fear are. But then for everyone here, the goal and the challenge is to learn to control your own negative emotions so that you can be a better person and to try to help others to control their negative emotions so they can embrace love and compassion. And then that way, as I said before, if we can get everyone to hear the message and to try to understand that their negative emotions are very destructive and very sort of unloving, if everyone can understand that message and try to work at controlling their own negative emotions, we're just going to end up with a better place, and humanity will just be a more aware and more conscious race. And so that's part of our challenge, is to try to overcome our own negative emotions and help others do the same thing.
And interesting, because you mentioned that the collective consciousness can manifest faster than an individual. So I'm wondering if this is why Albert came to you, so that you would write the book, so that you can help shift the collective consciousness.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Albert, he said, look, I'm just one of the messengers. He said that all the good souls in the spirit side, they're sending messages to humanity through a number of different sources. I mean, they come, for example, yourself on the radio show. Albert said he wanted me to write a book. There's lots of other authors who are writing books with more or less the same message, and they're trying to get the message spread through as many sources as they can. And he said in the last 15 or 20 years, they've increased the pace of the messages because they feel that humanity's at a point where it really needs a little extra boost, a little extra help. And they want the help to arrive before humans do something really stupid like destroy everything on the planet, which
right.
Of course they're quite capable of doing.
Yes, we can do that. Yeah.
We have the technology and the weapons to wipe out everything on Earth, and so I think they feel a bit of a sense of urgency to try to send more and more messages to more and more people. And certainly in my experience, I can see that because 15 or 20 years ago, the number of people who were what I would call spiritually aware were few and far between. Uh-huh. And today I see more and more people who are sending out spiritual messages and responding in spiritual ways. And I think the messages coming from the spirit side are really getting through in a much more productive way. And so that's just what they're trying to do, and hopefully all of us can play our part. The radio hosts and the authors and the commentators to try to get people to start thinking along those lines. It's been increasing. It's been working so far, but we still have the potential. If we don't get to everyone, to the people who have their finger on the red button, we still have the potential to destroy everything before we get there. Hopefully, that won't happen.
We're going to shift the energy beyond desperation, and we're going to do it. Everything's going to work out fine. Are you still in contact with Albert?
Yes, I still am. It's not sort of like an everyday contact. I don't talk to him every day. I contact him when I have a profound question or something that I think that he could help me answer. That's not just sort of a day-to-day thing. And so I was in very constant contact with him when I was writing Dancing on a Stamp, and I'm now in the process of writing book 2. And so I'm back at. Sorry.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, so book 2 is underway, and I'm back in sort of more regular contact with Albert, so book 2 will have some more wisdom from Albert, and hopefully I'll get it done before too long and off to the publisher. But I'm quite excited about it. And
what's the name of it? Do you know?
I haven't picked the name yet. No.
Oh, okay. Well, talk about the name. Why did you call this book Dancing on a Stamp?
Well, it was sort of interesting. The phrase came from Albert, but it wasn't initially in the context of a book title. During the course of our conversations, at one point, he said to me, and I must have been complaining about something. I don't know. He said to me, one of your problems is that you spent too much of your life dancing on a stamp. And I said to him, well, what do you mean dancing on a stamp? And he said, well, imagine that you're in the middle of this big, beautiful ballroom, and there's great dance music playing, and everyone else is up and dancing and swirling around this big ballroom, but you're standing on one spot, jumping up and down like you have leg irons on, and it's like you're dancing on a stamp, and you need to get rid of your leg irons and start exploring this big ballroom and get to know it. Wow. And so it was a bit of a sort of an admonishment to me about what I'd been doing in my life. But the phrase stuck in my mind, and so when I was finishing my manuscript and I was looking for a title, this phrase kept on. It was kind of a unique phrase, kept on popping up in my mind. So finally, I said to Albert, "Well, I'm thinking of calling my book Dancing on a Stamp. What do you think?" And he said, "Yep, go for it. That's a good title."
I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Like I said, I got some big aha moments in here, and I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing that with us. And I'm hoping that you're going to come back when your second book is out so that we can talk about that.
I'd certainly love to, Jules. And thank you for inviting me on this show and talking about Dancing on the Stamp. And I really enjoyed talking to you. And you're a great host. You're one of the people who's here to help spread the message.
Thank you so much for saying that. I just love doing this. I just feel like this is my life's purpose. It took me 55 years to get here, but let me ask you, where can people buy this book?
Well, it's available on many of the online stores and some of the bricks and mortar stores, but it's a bit hit and miss. But if they go to my website, which is dancingonastamp.com, right on the landing page, there's a bunch of buy links. So if you click on any of those, like Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Book Depository, or you can even get it directly from my publisher, which is Ozark Mountain. If you click on any of those, you can just do a couple clicks and you can order the book either paperback or it's available in ebook as well. So that's the best place to source it out if it's not in your local bookstore.
Great. You know what? This book is soothing to the soul. It really is. It makes you just feel so good, and it's just a reminder. Really, it is terrific. So tell Albert thank you, and I want to thank you too. It's just wonderful.
Thank you for saying that, and it's been my pleasure.
And for all my wonderful listeners, Have a great week. We'll be back with another terrific show of Law of Attraction Talk Radio next week. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another great show from Law of Attraction Talk Radio. If you'd like to comment on tonight's show, send an email to jules@loaradionetwork.com and have a great week.